Wow. I wonder if you, like myself, find it hard to believe that we're already into 2023, actually day 8, and I'm dropping my very first episode entitled Black Father's Impact. Willie Bartell will be the man I will be speaking of in this episode. However, let me say this. The importance of fathers in the lives of their children of any age is important, regardless of their race, background, ongoing status. An active father in some form, I firmly believe, is needed. By active, I mean one who engages with their children, whether those children be biological or not. I am not a biological son of the man Willie Bartell. He had no children, yet he was like a father to me, as you will discover within this episode. He was not just a spiritual father, he was a mental guide to me, as you will discover in this episode. For I firmly believe that all fathers do not have to be blood related. The best of fathers for me have not been blood related. I wish I could say that my biological father was an impact player in my life, but he was not. Still is not. And probably never will be. But that's all I will say about him, because this is about the impact of positive black men, positive black fathers. And again, the principles here therein can apply across the board. I was dealing with something. The thing I was dealing with borderline. I was about to become homeless. Uh, but I was also privileged to be in a place of worship. And I will no longer take away from my faith in these upcoming episodes. And if that bothers you, so be it. You can choose to listen or not to listen. I will continue to highlight the power of faith and positivity and belief in something higher than myself. At least to get back to the story. I had a great roommate. We were knocking things down, paying bills, doing our part, sharing a home. But he decided he didn't no longer want to be roommates. He wanted a different roommate. And his other roommate was the one so since he was one on the property, name was on the property, I had to vacate. This occurred on a Friday, many years ago. He gave me up to that Monday to get out. My faith was very strong back then. I was an ardent believer and active in my place of worship. My faith has been challenged over the years. However, I knew that if I was to allow myself to be quiet in my spirit, reduce my energy, and realize where I was standing, that the God I serve will provide an answer to make a solution for me. So I reached out to someone that following Sunday when I arrived at my place of worship, the church I was attending. Reached out to a man I trusted, a leader in the community, church community. I shared with him my story and the need for a release, a resolution. He pulled me aside and he prayed with me. Then he prayed over me. He spoke life into me. He spoke power over my situation. He and I joined hands and we realized that what I was facing was perhaps not the end, actually a new beginning. And he told me about a man in the church named Willie, who had space in his home. He was actually a leader in the church, a deacon. And Willie was a unique man. He arrived on the local transportation bus because he had a disability. They brought him there. When he was able to drive, or to feel comfortable driving his vehicle. Sometimes he was in good health, sometimes he wasn't. And he introduced me to Willie after the service, and we shared, and they prayed. Power of prayer. Sometimes I forget how powerful prayer is. Often I've forgotten it. And Willie requested that I come by his home for a one-on-one, which I did. And needless to say, I was supposed to be out of that property. But through the power of prayer, when I finally arrived at home, showing how things do work when you accept that there's someone guiding your life, engaging with you beyond yourself. For those of us who believe such. I would let my roommate know the situation I was now in. What I mean by that is that I needed more time to vacate the property, but I would be leaving. He agreed to it, so it wasn't like he first presented it. I had time to get out. And Willie had let me know that was only the first meeting. He needs more time. Things worked out so that I was actually there about 2 more weeks in that property. So I had to meet with Willie again. Oh, this time he brought along another member of the congregation. For those of you who are not familiar with certain aspects of Christianity, it's deeply rooted in things that go back not even generations, but years, hundreds of years, to the roots of the early church, especially the African church, not the African American church, the deep where Christianity started at motherland Africa. Though some of you may disagree with that, you can do your own research. And a lot of those practices were carried on and continue to be. In my case, they took literally what the texts talk about, laying on our hands and anointing with oil. And Willie, his prayer partner, asked me would I allow them to lay their hands on me, pray over me, and anoint me with oil. To speak not only to my situation, but speak to those things I didn't even fully acknowledge that were mine, gifts and talents within me. And though I was there and I was somewhat religious and also somewhat spiritual, I still hesitated when it came to certain traditions, as I call them. Though they had a biblical reference, I saw them more tradition than I saw the biblical reference. So I saw more of what people were doing and less of the impact of how it had impacted. These actions had impacted people back generationally, even to slavery times of my ancestors. How they have taken the sacred text, not the text that the slave owners have given them, actually the actual text and read in it and saw its power. And passed their stories on. I was part of that in this modern day time period. They did what they did based on those things. And it felt strange to me. But he spoke words of life over me. Whether the text that says his life and death in the power of the tongue. So by now you should know that Willie was a spiritual father eventually and a mentor to me. Then he said, I'll get back with you, basically. Which he did the following week. At which point he opened his home up to me. And I was no longer facing homelessness. And you may say, well, Alfred, what got you to that point? Were you not working? Yes, I was working. I was saving, doing some things, and it was not consistent with some things. I was doing what I had to do. I was chasing that dream that's now reality that allows me to reach you through this podcast. Speak to you through this podcast. That's what I'm doing. And because of him taking me in his home, I gained another level of access to a very wise man. Not only secularly wise, but spiritually wise. Once there, we were engaging in conversations like people do. Those of us who know me know I'm a factual person. I like digging into facts, I like doing research. I will debate you down to get my opinion across sometimes, but I have some facts to support it. But it's not always about the facts. It's not always about what you can see. Which I had to learn. I still struggle with from time to time. So one of the first things this man would say to me when I would start spewing out facts and information based on what things I've learned, he would say, Alfred, you're letting your analytical brain block your blessing. And some of you may say, well, if God is all powerful, how can he block it? We do. Just like on your job. You may have an opportunity, but you allow your mindset, perspective to block you from the opportunity. It's not in your hands, but you're blocking it because of how you perceive it. Same thing with God and faith. He's willing, but are you willing? I was willing. I'm often willing, but not ready. But you have to be ready for the opportunity. Well, as Les Brown is famous for saying, it's better to be prepared for the opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and be not prepared. So here I am, years later, Willie's gone. I still struggle with that from time to time. But he spoke to me those words, and they still resonate in my spirit now. He spoke to me those words like a father would to his son. And the more I would push back, the more he would pull me in. The more I push back, the more he would pull me in. The more I push back, the more he would pull me in. But not so much with his words, but by his actions. There would be nights when the phone would ring, and yes, he was old school. He had an old school house phone as well as a cell phone. And I would hear him up, rambling. And he would answer that phone. And then next thing I hear, as I try to go to sleep, is him on the phone praying fervently with someone, calling on the God he served for the deepest reaches of his heart. God we serve. He would speak life. He would speak words of wisdom. For as the text said, by one ancient writer, life and death is in the power of the tongue. He would speak those things over that person. And then we would arrive at different times at church on Sunday. And sometimes he would ride the bus in, public transportation, and when he did, there was those days when he weren't feeling well. And he didn't want to, since I had assignments of service that I would get that for him. So he rode the bus in. And he would come in walking with a cane, tired, because he met the night up with someone. Sometimes praying, sometimes just going through his own struggles. But he would never leave with that cane under his arm. He would, hobbling with that cane, he would leave it with something and tuck the person in his arm. And that public transportation would draw him sometimes off to the local jail where he will go and meet with inmates who, some of them were like giving up hope. He was the voice that went to them. The same man that looked broken found power to stand and be there for someone else like he was for me. He was not just a father to me, he was a father to countless others. He was an earthly, spiritual father. He was a mental guide by having real life talk, not pulling the punches about things you should do and should not do. He was a warrior of the spiritual kind. He was a man who, last time I saw him, was leaving up his dialysis treatment. I mean, to later find he had a brain hemorrhage while in dialysis. Never recovered. Yet his words lived in me. Words simply that said, do not let your analytical brain block your blessing. All fathers who are listening to this, or you have a father who needs to hear this, your words matter. There have been times when I've not been the best of a father to my sons. There have been times I've been a crazy great father to my sons. Depends on how they may view things because of our relationship. Yet this I will say, there are words that I've seen my sons live out. So I will say on that part. All fathers are not biological. Spiritual fathers are needed, regardless of how you believe. There are those, spiritual I don't necessarily mean like biblical. There are those fathers who bring that energy to young children, whether they are serving in the community, some capacity of volunteering in some place of worship, volunteering at some club for young children, teenagers, whatever, volunteering in the school system where they're desperately needed. If you are a father, I encourage you to make that investment. Go into somebody's school, go get signed up in some school system. Invest some time. They don't have to be your kids. The systems will do the background checks on you. If you have something to give beyond your own children, give it. If you are a man, give it. I did it for over 16 years. Just don't show up at the football games and the basketball games and the sporting events. Get down and dirty in those classrooms. Volunteer, pass the freaking background checks. Get in there and let your voice be heard. Let your words be an impact player, a father of some kind, in the spiritual sense, in the emotional sense. Let your spiritual energy flow out. It works. I was a time I was standing in a grocery line and this full-grown young man said, "Thank you, Mr. Harrell." I'm like, "How I know you?" "Well, you volunteered in my classroom." I was an impact player. I was a father to that fatherless boy. Just as Willie Bartell became a father to me in my adulthood. Spiritual guide. Society will continue to paint the image of black fathers in a negative way. We are so much more. We are living, we are breathing, we are achieving. We are fathers to the fatherless, as one text said. Willie Bartell was such a man to me. I had others, but he was the one in my adult years when I was chasing a dream and he would not let me stop chasing it. He would encourage me in it, in my walk, in my faith walk. And there's been years after his passing that he probably wondered if he was alive, he would found me, if he knew the situation I was in, how I went way out there some of my thinking, and pulled me back in. Because he had a way to reach me where others couldn't. If you're a man listening, regardless of your race, become an impact player. You don't have to have naturally born children to be a father. Lend your voice, lend your skills, put it out there in the community. Make a difference in some way. If you are a black father, let your reach continue to be what it is. Be that impact player. Whether you're a biological father or not. There are children who need you. Willie Bartell. impact player. A father to me when I needed one in a spiritual sense. I also encourage you to check out Podbean, an excellent source for recording your own podcast episode. It's a free resource. Lend your voice to the world, make a difference. Become an impact player by means of doing your own podcast.